What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another NFL preview here at Clubhouse TV, brought to you by sportsbed.io, where Lou Finocchiaro and I break down these primetime NFL games every single week. And now Lou, we were at week 11 a night ago. We're talking about week 12 already, and quite a few interesting games on the slate for week 12. But before we get to that, let me just introduce who's on this show today. I mentioned myself. My name is Chris Farley at Farley Bets on X, and he is Lou Finocchiaro at Gamblu on X, or check him out at gamblu.com. Lou, how did you do in week 11?
Another good week. Thank you for asking. We hit the little teaser we offered last week here on the show. So the first 5 weeks, it's funny, after all these years, you'd think that there aren't cold spells and spells where you go through. I don't want to call it pressure, but the best term is the baseball term. You're just not seeing the ball, and try as you might, you can't get a hit. And the first 5 weeks of the NFL season were frustrating to me, and I thought, oh my goodness, this could be a long season. Well, the last 5 weeks have been as good as or better than the first 5 weeks were poor, which tells my message here to early investors, young investors, developing NFL investors is this is a 17-week marathon. It's not a sprint. You have to be prepared for 17 weeks, then 4 more of playoff action. And it's a meat grinder. If you're not prepared for 18 weeks, you can't get discouraged. You got to keep going. And if you kill them the first month, you better watch out. And if you slip on ice the first month, you better get focused in. But I love how difficult it is to beat, but I also love the fact that I get 18 weeks to do it because I've corrected myself now. Clients are in the money, and it looks like over the last few weeks that I'm seeing the ball much better. There's less pressure. I'm looser, and I'm having to strain less to come up with my positions.
Yeah, I can relate to everything you just said. I feel the same way. I went 5-0 in my contest selections last week, which I'd like to ask you a question about
Nice.
that, Lou. Yeah, because Circa has these quarterly contests, and now I'm in the runnings at least for a significant prize in the third quarter. So I just wanted to ask you, and I should mention too before I forget, Lou and I both hit our bets on last week's show. I had the Eagles on Thursday night football, and they covered, even though they got off to a pretty slow start. But Lou, in these contests, because around the globe now, we're seeing more of these betting contests, whether it's Survivor or against the spread, and obviously more and more participants in those contests as they hope to win bigger buckets of money. I know you have some experience in these contests. In 2021, I placed fifth in Circa. That was a great year for me, but it's been a pretty rough ship since then because it ain't easy in these contests, right? When you reach this point, though, where I have an opportunity, at least for the next few weeks, if I do well, to win some money from a psychological perspective, what have you gleaned from your past experiences?
I would glean that you're 2 weeks into a 4-week contest, basically, is how you're now looking at this thing. And so I think you're a week away from getting excited. So the really your month's worth of due diligence should be taking place this week. And you need to do everything that you can do to mock what you've done the last 2 weeks because you're 9-1 after the last 2 weeks. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to take too much advice from anybody or change much of what you're doing. I would just trust your process. You've been in this for some time. You've played contests for some time. You have experience with it. So number one, trust yourself. And number two, swing it easy. I use that term all the time. But when you're at the plate and you're gripping your bat, or if you're gripping a golf club, you're squeezing the neck so hard, you're never going to get a good shot off. So loosen up. And so I'd tell you to stay loose. And I would also say good luck and have a 4-1 week this week. And next week, you can really have some fun with this because now you're betting into a contest and you can bet into the contest plays.
Yeah, I love that answer, and I appreciate that. I promised our producer, shout out to Will, fabulous producer, that I wasn't going to ask too many questions on today's show, but here I go again. Just one more for you before we get to these games, Lou. I love what you said about just trusting yourself, not listening to many others, because one of the differences, as you mentioned too, right? You're settling in, you're feeling looser in your bets later on in the season, and lately. That's been my experience too. I'm not listening to podcasts. I'm not reading anybody. I'm not taking anyone's advice. I'm secure in my own approach. So trying to mirror that approach as much as possible. How much do you take in on a weekly basis? I know on previous shows you said that you look at everything, right? Every detail, which I love that perspective. But do you listen, or do you read any other, like, are there guys or gals that you trust in the industry that you listen to or take in every week, or is it just Lou in his workshop?
At the end of the day, after I've taken in a bunch of information, and there are guys that I trust, and they're buddies of mine. Las Vegas Chris, sharp as he can
Yeah.
be. Fezzik, I know the guy's just. You want to talk about a contest guy? So I don't want to drop names, but I want to. Yeah, I pay attention to all of that. But when it comes down to my process, it comes down to the look ahead lines, what I perceive as reaction. At the end of the day, I'd rather be sitting in the lap of the books than the public. Now on VSiN, the betting splits used to be all DraftKings betting splits. Now I can look at DraftKings betting splits, and I can hit another button. I can see the circa betting splits. Now, to many people, they're going to say, well, what's the difference? A sports book's a sports book. Oh, no. DraftKings caters to 11 and 20s and 55s and 200s, and Circa deals with professionals. And you're going to see that the data revealed in each set is completely different. A huge, huge tool for a guy like me. So I don't even know where we were going with this question, except that you need to trust your process. But I listen to everything. I want to know what everybody's thinking. And then when it comes down to it, this last week I play in a Las Vegas Review Journal, the newspaper, pick 5 each week. And I'm 3 or 4 games over 500, having a very mediocre time, but I've done well lately. And last week, all the pros were on Denver. All the wise guys were on Denver. But for that pick in that contest, I used Atlanta. Why? Because early in the week, my thought process was Atlanta, and I was ready to buck all those people. And what happened? All those people were right. So it didn't work for me. So at the end of the day, I'm just going to tell you, trust yourself, and you have to do what's right for you, whatever process is right for you.
Yeah, and I know that I have very few sources that I trust. You're one of them, Lou. That's for sure. I remember last week you pushed me over the edge on Houston, actually, because I loved Houston heading into that. When we compared both teams and talked about it a little more, I was even more convinced. So maybe I'll give you 5 to 10%, Lou. How's about that? I'm just kidding. All right, here we go.
I'm happy to contribute. That's what actually this show's all about. All
Yep.
we're trying to do is till the dirt and create some kind of information opportunity for you folks that are watching to be able to pick a tidbit here and there that might work for you.
I love that. And that's a great segue. Let's get to the first game of the week in week 12. Is the Pittsburgh Steelers visiting the Cleveland Browns, another classic AFC North battle. Odds makers think this is going to be another very low scoring battle. They have the total at 36.5, which, last 6 games between these two teams, the last 3 seasons in the regular season, averaged 37 points per game. So you could see why that would be the case, right? These AFC North games tend to be very defensive. Both teams are very familiar with each other. And now Pittsburgh, I would say, not inflated because they deserve a spread like this with how consistent they've been, but on the road, short week, off a very exciting, emotional win over the Ravens, right, where they have taken the top spot in the AFC North. They are 3.5-point favorites at Cleveland. And while the handicapper in me from, just historic NFL betting approaches, right? Like I want to take Cleveland at value, Lou, because they're at home. It's a divisional game, and the Ravens are off that big win. But it is the Cleveland Browns who have been very consistently bad on defense this season. And I don't like even what I'm saying from their offense lately, too. They put up a lot of yards, but it didn't amount to very much against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So I'm a little conflicted on this one, Lou. What do you think about Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, there's a lot. There is a lot here. Pittsburgh 3-42 was the look ahead. Now it's 3.5, 36.5, and this is your consummate on Sunday. Check the weather. The line opened 42 at 41 Sunday before the games were over. We jumped this under at 41. It's now 36.5. It's wind. It's all wind. It's a Thursday game. There's other wind games Sunday. But if you haven't attacked those by now, Tuesday, or when we listen to this Tuesday evening in Europe, then we're a little bit late. This is something you really got to kind of try and jump early. So not only do I like the under here, I look, and here's an example of the betting splits. At DraftKings, 16% of the bets, but 39% of the money is on Cleveland. So some people are believing in Cleveland. At Circa, 5% of the bets and 5% of the money is on Cleveland. That means at Circa, the wise guy shop, there's nobody betting Cleveland. They're betting Pittsburgh. Now, I think it's a terrible spot for Pittsburgh. You're right. They're off Baltimore, off a big win. Everybody's down on Cleveland. The quarterback was hot. Now nobody likes him anymore. And Pittsburgh really has a lot going on themselves. Week 11 to 16, Pittsburgh has 5 division games in 6 weeks. They're on the road 4 of those 5 weeks, and this week starts 4 games in 17 days for them. So don't jump on the Pittsburgh bandwagon now if you haven't already. They may slip on ice here a little bit on a couple of games, and in an old-fashioned slobber knocker kind of a game, this is something that I may wait on, and it's Cleveland or nothing, but I don't think I'm interested in 3.5, but I sure might be interested in the home team at 9.5, where I can cover 4, 6, 7, 8, and all the way through 10, up to 10. So perhaps the play here for me would be, especially with a total where you can't see a lot of points. I mean, either team wants to win this thing 11-9. So Cleveland teased up is the only approach to this game for me.
Yeah, I like that. And the weather is certainly something to take into consideration in this game. We're looking at 20 plus mile-hour winds, a little rain, maybe a little snow. So this is good. You talk about a classic AFC North battle. This is should be very sloppy and just a lot of volatility in games like that too, right? Because you don't know. I mean, the offense is affected, the defense is affected. I always think the offense is affected a little bit more. I mean, they have to handle the ball, right? But
they know where they're going. The defenders on the defensive
exactly.
backfield are at a terrible. The issue is the wind, because with the wind,
Yep.
the throwing game gets minimized, and when the passing game gets minimized, you see totals go from 42 to 36.5.
Yeah, and great note about Pittsburgh's schedule. I remember looking at that before the season, and I mean that's a treacherous ending to their schedule.
Coming right here, it's coming up right here, and they've overachieved up till this point. Yep. But they may be in a couple vulnerable spots.
All right, let's move on to the Hate Your Money segment of the week, which is something we've been doing for quite a few weeks now. Lou, you made a great point that this Hate Your Money segment is just a little more relevant earlier in the season. Why is that?
Well, it's relevant to me earlier in the season because at that point in time, I'm on par with everyone else. We all know nothing. Right. And so when everybody's jumping one way, I can trust that they don't know what they're doing. It's easier for me to go the other way. And I can, in essence, utilize the theory of the masses to my own benefit. Now we're in week 12 this week, and it's getting Thanksgiving time. And when I start thinking about wind and weather, that's when I also start thinking about trying to focus in on games that are playoff caliber NFL matchups. Why? Because that's what I'm going to start seeing here. Those are the games that are going to be televised. That's what I want to attack to get ready for the playoffs. I'm not going to get Kansas City and Carolina in any kind of playoff game. And so for that reason, and because I kind of know what Carolina's doing, there's been a fire sale there, and some of these other teams out of the playoffs, they may have different motivations. And so if I know a little something after 12 weeks, and I sure hope I do, then Hate Your Money maybe is a little less of an approach, and finding the right value or opportunity in a game becomes more important.
Yeah, and that is the game I want to briefly talk about, Kansas City visiting Carolina. And the main reason why I wanted to bring this one up is because for me, this is tangibles versus intangibles in a sense, because obviously Kansas City, they're great at everything, right? Including the intangibles. We see that in the biggest games all the time. Doesn't matter how their stats are. They know how to win games. They know how to close out games. Now, last week, though, they got their first loss of the season, Lou. They're on the road. They're at Buffalo. Now they're on the road again at Carolina. I'm not sure what Andy Reid's plans are, travel plans are this week. I'll have to look into that. But that alone is a difficult spot, right? A double road spot. On top of that, I just think psychologically, we see it in sports all the time. Once a team loses their first game, losing becomes a little bit easier after that, right? There's a little less to protect. And I'm not saying they're going to totally let down their guard. Lord knows Kansas City's probably pissed off after last week. But this isn't exactly a marquee game at Carolina, arguably the worst team in the NFL. Carolina, though, is coming off a bye, and this could be their Super Bowl, right? I mean, if any team that they're going to face all season is a team that they want to play hard, it's the Super Bowl champs. It's Travis Kelce, who might bring Taylor Swift with her. It's Patrick Mahomes. So, as ugly as it gets, Lou, but the Panthers are 10.5 to 11-point underdogs at home, and the total is 42. Can you take Carolina's side in this one?
No, no, Carolina's just not a team I'm willing to. And now, if I was, this would be a perfect week. Next week, Kansas City has a division rival, the Raiders, on a Friday on the Thanksgiving week. So every possible distraction moving forward is with Kansas City, except the monster that was undefeated last week and had a 2-game lead on Buffalo, lost to Buffalo, now only has a 1-game lead on Buffalo, and this is a professional organization. Double-digit dogs, the only way I could go here. I don't want it because I'm fishing for walleye and I'm fishing for bass, and I don't want carp and I don't want catfish.
Got it. All right, that's a great line, and we'll just move on from there. I tend to agree with you. I don't think I could side with Carolina, and it is a shame because even if they were like, I don't know, like slightly above the middle tier, or excuse me, slightly below the middle tier, but not the NFL's worst team, I'm probably going to take a look at Carolina. But it just hasn't been good. And to your point, Kansas City is such a professional organization. They know how to pin it up, right, button it up, and go back to what they do best. All right, let's talk about two really great games: Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. Philadelphia Eagles off a Thursday Night Football win, so they're coming off a little bit of extra rest, going across the country to visit the LA Rams. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. They were 3-point favorites. This has moved down a notch, and the total in this one is very high, 49.5 to 50. I'll start off right from the beginning, Lou. I think the total is a little too high. I think this could feel like like an NFC playoff battle. Now, the Eagles haven't been facing very good teams, and Washington has been pretty good. But last week, their defense did a good job. But for the most part, over the last month or so, a lot of their defensive metrics have risen up because of their weak opponents. That being said, Philadelphia is first in the NFL in pass yards allowed, or yards allowed per pass. And obviously Matthew Stafford in that passing attack is one of the best in the NFL, especially when he has both of his marquee wide receivers healthy. I like that matchup there. I think the Rams defense is better than people think too. So I kind of like this being a clash, a defensive clash in a really tight game. I'm probably going to have a play on the under. Now that it's moving down a little bit, I might just watch and see what happens for a little longer. And I kind of like the Rams as a teaser leg, Lou. I mean, 2.5, you get it right through those key numbers. That is your quintessential Wong teaser. So that's what I'm looking at so far in this one. What do you got, Rams and Eagles?
Well, the betting splits at Circle. All the bets are on Philly. So, and that's not uncommon. Wise guys are going to hit favorites real early in the week to try and play into the growth of the number. In this case, it maybe worked the other way because it went from 3 to 2.5, which is indicative of some Ram love. And really, when I look at this matchup, these are two competitive teams. But I think that I do lean Philly here, and I do lean the under. In fact, if I see 48 as the look ahead, 50 and a half when I was prepping for this show. And 50 and a half, I would maybe watch it today to see if I could get to 51, because that's an important number. And at 51, that's a good number. Boom, under. Because I agree with the under, but I think it's Philadelphia that's going to take that potent rushing attack and expose the Rams rush defense 20th ranked. And what's that going to do? Eat clock. And I think that the pace of this game ends up being slow if LA wants to stay in it. I don't see the passing attack between two teams that these two teams are equipped to give us. I don't see that. I see Saquon Barkley with 28 carries and Philly try and win this game with ball control.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, best thing you can do against the Rams is keep it away from Matthew Stafford and those great wide receivers. This is a tough one across the board, but we're mostly aligned on that one. Yeah, I mean, I don't lean the Rams necessarily, but I do like them in that teaser. Gonna look for another leg to that one, but I'm not. I don't know. I've been getting my ass kicked with teasers lately, Lou. So I'm not necessarily jumping to the window on that one either. All right, Monday Night Football, the final game we'll discuss here in Week 12 is another great game. It's the Harbaugh Bowl. The Baltimore Ravens, off that loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, travel across the country to face the LA Chargers, who just got a big win against Joe Burrow and the Bengals, even though they almost gave up that win towards the end. Joe Burrow put on some magic there. I mean, Joe Burrow is just one of my favorite players in the NFL, so I hate to see what's going on with the Bengals. But anyway, I'm going to say it right from the start here, Lou. I can't explain it. It's like we talked about last week, and maybe I'm completely wrong, but I have an impulse here. I have a trigger to take the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to wait probably. I think, there's some signs that this could go down to -2.5 because the +3 is getting mega juiced at some sharper books. But the Ravens respond usually in these situations. Now everybody in the media is like, oh, Lamar Jackson, he's inconsistent. He can't win against, in the big games against Kansas City or those teams. These are one of those games where the Ravens explode. Everything goes really well. I love Jim Harbaugh and what he's doing there with the Chargers, but I don't think he's just going to continue to mow down all these elite opponents and they're going to escape with these wins. So even though they're the favorite, I wish it wasn't a 3, but I'm siding with the Ravens in this one, and that might be one of my best bets of the week. What do you got here, Lou, on this one? I should mention the totals at 50.
At DraftKings,
Or 50
the
and a half.
Chargers are getting 63% of the bets and 4% of the money. Okay, so the public is looking at the Chargers, but let's test that. What's going on at Circa? At Circa, Baltimore is getting 38% of the bets and 96% of the money. When I saw that prep on the show, I dropped my pencil and went and dumped the Baltimore money line right then. No sense waiting. The number's good enough for me. I'm all about the Baltimore money line here. That's my release right now. Whatever that 3 equates to, -142 or whatever, I can look that up. That's the position that I'd like to go here. And the way I break this game down is Baltimore ball control, trying to expose the only real weakness the Chargers have is their rush defense. And so we're going to see a lot of Henry in this game and a lot of Baltimore controlling the ball. I don't agree with the 47-51 track meet. I don't see that here. But that's not where I'm going. I'm going to stay with the side and also understand too that at 3, the total's too high to be interested in a Charger tease. But the reason I might overstep the rule of the high total here is because of the familiarity of the two coaches. Neither one of these guys is going to 52-7 the other. These guys know each other. They play the same kind of football. They were taught by the same guy. They know what each other's going to do. So you got to throw some of that differences out. And you have two guys that, again, want to win a game 11-9. However, John Harbaugh has become a little bit more evolved in his NFL development because he's got that high potent number 1 ranked offense.
Yep, totally agree. And we've seen him defeat his brother before. Not that that's going to just keep happening or not, but at a certain point, Jim Harbaugh, his first year back in the NFL, there's going to be a little bit of a chink in the armor. I mean, we've seen a few of those, this season, but mostly they've stepped up, Lou. I mean, it's been very impressive.
Well, the difficulty of the difficulty of the LA Chargers schedule is right now. They're
Yeah.
just getting into the hardest part of their schedule, so we're about to learn a lot about them too.
Yep, and they have a lot of look ahead. Another game against KC coming, so we're aligned on this one, Lou. I like your play on the money line too.
Please let me interrupt. Sorry, Chris.
Sure.
I gave the release as the Baltimore. Baltimore is currently minus 148 as I look at DraftKings. Okay, so that's not the release I'm going to use. I want to use ball. I'm not betting minus 148. I want a plus number. So let's do a little parlay this week, and it's a money line parlay. So I'm going to use Baltimore as the final leg. So that's Monday night. I'll be coming into that. If I want to get cute and tease San Diego up, or San Diego, I'm sorry, I keep saying that. The Chargers up, I could do that if I want. But for now, I'm making my bet with the Miami Dolphin money line against division rival New England. Listen, Miami, all their metrics are skewed. Tua's back. It's a different team. They're not going to lose. Minus 360 rolls me into Baltimore, and I can take Baltimore from minus 148 to plus 114 with that parlay. That's what I'll be doing.
Yeah, and just a little note there about the weather too. We've seen that story before. Some of the best New England Patriots teams have gone to Miami at this time of year, and they do not fare well. Sometimes it's earlier in the year too. I don't know how hot it's going to be in Miami, but New England's used to a different kind of climate at this point. So usually that has some kind of effect, right? They're on the sunny sideline there in Miami. So I like that play, Lou. Miami also qualifies as a pretty good teaser leg too, I must say, if anyone's interested in that. Of course, you can place your wagers at sportsbet.io, so check them out over there and try to get the best odds that you possibly can. That's another week here with Lou and I, week 12 in the NFL. We're charging through. We're giving out some winners. Finally, our run of bad luck has gone away, Lou, so let's keep with that, knock on wood. Pray for me, folks, out there in this Circa contest. I got a little daughter. I want to win some money. Let's go. Lou, it's great to... It's great to talk with you as always. We appreciate the advice and insight. And for all of us here at Clubhouse TV and sportsbet.io, good luck with your bets, everybody, and have a cautious and successful week 12. See you later.